Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. We are continuing to roll on through February, through the semester, hopefully getting to the other side of all the challenges that you all have had with COVID. And I want to tell you again, we really appreciate all the cards and letters and calls and emails and hit-ups on LinkedIn, and the feedback that we're getting from you has been just amazing. And we've got two very, very special guests today, two very, very dear friends of mine, leaders in the community, servant leaders, we like to say. They have just a little bit in common. They both won national championships. One won a Heisman, one played with a Heisman winner, Danny Wuerffel, dear friend, executive director of Desire Street Ministries, president of the Wuerffel Foundation, namesake of the Wuerffel Trophy. Also, as we know, Heisman Trophy winner in Florida. And Chris Welton, who's the vice chair and board and chair marketing committee for Athletes for a Better World. We're going to talk about that award, Danny being the acceptance of the Wooden Cup from that award. Our dear friend Billy Espy, and rest his soul, introduced me to this amazing organization and all the great work it does. The award is April 29th, hosted by Bob Ryan. It celebrates amazing high school athletes, collegiate athletes, and this year's recipient also Stuart Sink. So we had a lot of inspirational things to unpack today. And Chris Welton, one of my mentors and friends for a long time, hugely successful in the sports marketing world as well, with Meridian Helios Partners, as I said, played on the 1980 Georgia National Championship team, as well as UGA Law School, as well as was very involved in the Olympic movement. So, gentlemen, Danny and Chris, welcome to Virtual Melt University today.
Thank you, Vince. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Me too. Well, we can match up some Gators and Bulldogs and get along just fine, I would imagine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In the way that the world is today, it's good to get the Gators and the Dogs, together at least the other 364 days a year. But Chris, before we dive into a lot of this, talk about the genesis of Athletes for a Better World, the Coach Wooden Citizenship Cup. That obviously Danny, whom well documented when he was quarterback of the Saints and Desire Street Ministries, he's moved that practice and moved that movement to Atlanta. We'll talk about that in a little bit in just a moment. But Chris, just give us a little bit of an overview of Athletes for a Better World in this Citizenship Cup, named in honor. A lot of students don't know Coach John Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood, UCLA. We hear a lot of our guests talk about his famous book. So talk about a little bit about the movement.
Sure, Vince, and thanks again for this opportunity. Athletes for a Better World is entering its 23rd year now. It was founded in 1998 by a guy named Fred Northrup. And Fred's goal upon founding the organization was to find a way to talk about character and to use athletics and athletes themselves to kind of convey that message. He wrote a book called Winning More Than the Game that is kind of our guiding light in terms of what we try to communicate to athletes and how they should go about not only perfecting their craft as athletes, but also giving back to the community, building their character, building strong families and strong communities. And the way we do that is, some people say the purpose of our organization is to recognize athletes, and we do that. We present a professional award every year called the Wooden Cup, which is the award that Danny will receive in April. But we also recognize 4 collegiate athletes and 4 high school athletes. We take applications from schools all over the country, and that is just an excruciating process to go through, just because of the quality of the submissions that you see and how hard it is to narrow it down to just 4 people as nominees and then 1 person as a winner. And I also like to say that we, while we are recognizing these athletes, we're actually making use of them as well. No offense, Danny, but we are using them as examples of people who have exemplified the ideals of our organization. And some of the past winners of the Wooden Citizenship Cup, again, the award Danny's receiving, are Jack Nicklaus, Pat Summitt, another former Saints quarterback, Drew Brees, Andrew Yeager, some guy that I've heard of vaguely named Tim Tebow, Shannon Miller, Peyton Manning, Leah Ham, John Lynch. Just that's about half of the folks that we've honored, and once again, the way they have conducted themselves, their public visibility, all assists us in conveying our message, and then it encourages some of these younger folks, the collegiate recipients and the high school recipients, to try to emulate them. And again, when you look at some of the submissions that we get, it makes me wonder what I did with all my spare time in college, because it's and high school, it's really impressive. And then, Coach Wooden, I'm a high schooler of the '70s, so I read Call Me Coach. I had a poster of the Pyramid of Success in my room. He's always been a hero of mine, and so when I was asked about 5 years ago by Billy to join this board, I leapt at the opportunity, and it's been very rewarding for me personally. And I think that what we do at Athletes for a Better World is more important now than it's ever been, and will continue to grow in importance. And so we're just thrilled to have Danny as a wonderful representative of what we represent, and really proud to be able to make this award to him.
Yeah, and I've been involved with the organization. It's just so inspirational, and what the mission and what the messaging and what the ministry is. But Danny, I want to kind of throw it back just a little bit. I mean, you basically, as far as I know, as long as I know, have committed your life to being a servant leader. Where, way back, forget about the football accolades, because nobody's done it better than you, which is significant. But even more significant is your commitment to helping a fellow human being. And before we talk about desire for a moment, where did this come from early on? This passion for giving back and helping others.
I think that's one of those questions where you can try to figure that out, and at different points in your life, you might actually realize you're kind of discovering that. There's probably a time in my life where I thought I just figured that out on my own, and probably took a lot of credit for that, unfortunately. But as I've grown, you kind of look at the scope of your life, and you start, recognizing your parents, and even beyond your parents, sort of the history of your family and how all that comes to play. But I come from a long line of very faithful people that have done a lot of great work and Christian work. And I don't remember this because I was little, but when I was born, my dad was a pastor at a low-income, primarily African-American church in a neighborhood in downtown Pensacola, Florida. So for the first 3 years of my life, that was sort of my existence, and they had started a school, and we moved before I kind of was aware of that, but that's all sort of in DNA. And I do also think that you look at the way that I was raised and the people around me and the different mentors. I was just very, very blessed to have people sort of inspire, challenge, shape. And so that's why, even as Chris talks about Athletes for a Better World, and a lot of things we do, whether Desire Street or the Wuerffel Trophy, really is trying to provide that model or the inspiration to show the next person to do it. So I really don't have a great answer for you, but I just remember even early on doing a few things to help people that made me feel really good, and it helped them. And I thought, man, this is a good way to spend some of your time.
Well, and Chris, the submissions that you all receive from the high schools and college athletes, and obviously, we talk a lot about student athletes, and all the things surrounding opportunities surrounding around student athletes. But and we talk about today's youth, and we talk about what's going on with the unrest and COVID and everything. But talk about what you see about the future of this generation. I deal with them a lot. We all deal with them a lot. And the common thread you see from both the nominees and the recipients of the citizenship, of the spirit, of the athletes for a better world. Like I said, we all can use being involved in sports and athletics to improve this world. And I think that we all do see that sports is a universal language. But as you call through the nominees, what are some of the common threads that you saw and the hope and optimism that you saw through some of their commitments to service?
Well, there are a number of common threads. Number one is to even get started, you have to be exceptional in your sport, and we have D1 athletes, we have D3 athletes, we have NAIA athletes. The high school submissions come from big schools, small schools, all across the country. So it's a very diverse group in terms of where these submissions originate. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they apply the same sort of rigor and effort to what they do off the field, in the classroom and in the community, as they do on the field. And that's a remarkable thing to see. And you just see a commonality in when you read the submissions, you sort of get a sense from their personality, and you basically see the same drive, the same commitment to excellence that is displayed and easily seen on the field, but you see that in their personal lives. And then I also this might have been prophetic, but when I was exercising first thing this morning, I was watching, because it's President's Day, there was a biography of Abraham Lincoln, and he made a statement in his second inaugural address, which is just brilliant in its entirety. But he made one statement that we shouldn't invoke God's name to have God help us achieve our will, but we need to invoke God and ask Him how we help Him to bring His will to pass. And if you look in these submissions, you look at Danny's life, it's very clear. And we're not a religious organization, and there is no religious test, and we have award winners from all faiths. But I do think that faith is a big part of all of these athletes' life, in whatever way, shape, or form they choose to express that. And they all seem to be that selflessness that they all express on the field, in the classroom, in the community, is probably the most common element. And they're trying to do right and do good in everything they do, and that's what we look for.
Well, and Danny, some of the coda of Athletes for a Better World: work hard, fair play, come together, grace and dignity, give something back. I mean, that's sort of in the spirit of practicing what you have, preached. Your entire life has been committed to that. Talk about, obviously we've got a lot of great college students listening today. And whether or not you're a world-class athlete or a famous athlete, no matter who you are, some of these values, it's very important now and I think this generation is obviously very in tune with this, but cause, community, giving back. Not only is it the right thing, not only does it put goodwill and karma in the universe, but a lot of employers now are looking at more intangibles than they are tangibles as it relates to academic performance and grades and all those types of things. What philosophy would you share for all of our listeners, not just our student athletes who are listeners, but all of our listeners who maybe they don't quite know, but it's in their heart and their gut that they need to do something?
Well, I would start by saying I think it's partly wired into all of us. Like it's part of our DNA that that while the transactional element of much of the world and competition, there's winners and losers, and we kind of understand that. But when we think about living and life and communities, getting ahead in business, we kind of adopt that same idea that either I win and get this or get this money or win this job, or I don't, someone else does. And it kind of becomes very transactional, in which case, there's a different set of values that kind of come to the surface. And you cut a corner if you need to get there, or you might fudge on this, or you might, there's lots of different ways to get where you're going if that's the only world that you live in. But I think deep in all of our hearts, there's something much more than that we're made for, that we enjoy, that we live, that kind of espouse a different set of values. So the first thing I would say is I do this with my kids. My wife found this really cool place near our house here where they have almost like an open home cooked meal refrigerator to people to drop off food, so that other people that don't have food can go just get it. And so it's really kind of a localized thing. And she was going to get extra food and do that. And I said, hey, why don't you take one of the kids and hopefully they'll find the joy in it. And the reality is you can really have your heart full when you help someone else. I mean, I remember a kid that got hurt in high school and they couldn't afford the surgery, and I knew some people that had more resources, so we kind of did a little fundraiser. And I remember giving this family an envelope with not a lot of money, but enough money to help them move forward. And they were so happy. My heart was so full. So the first answer to the question is, I think it's all of our DNA, and we're wired, and if we can get to it, we'll find joy in it. But also, for a lot of different reasons, it's kind of in vogue now with a lot of companies. So they're really trying to, whether it's legitimate concern for their community or whether they're just kind of testing the wind and seeing that's where a lot of this stuff is headed. There's a lot of communities that are really working hard, or businesses, and so they want to see that on resumes. They want to have well-rounded people. They actually value that. So I think it's an asset also in the career as you move forward. But hopefully it doesn't stay that way. It's something that we get engaged in, and we find joy in it, and that gives us the fuel.
Well, and I like that because here is a litmus that I've developed for hiring future employees going forward, and in my interviews and book tour and all this kind of stuff. The question is, what did you do for yourself and others during COVID? Did you binge watch, binge sleep, binge drink, whatever you did, or did you learn a new skill? Did you learn a new trait? Did you do something to give back to humanity? Did you understand empathy? Because we're all going through this madness right now, and it's been nearly a year, and it's impacted everybody in their own unique ways, in a positive and negative. So Danny and Chris, you don't have to have a giant foundation to make an impact on society. To your point, you can pick up a meal, you can pick up some groceries, you can cook a meal, you can drop it off, you can take it to somebody that's homebound, particularly where the weather is right now. Just anything to make that impact, because you don't know when that's going to impact somebody, save their life, and come back. I mean, that's at the core philosophy of what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah, I'll jump in first on that. Absolutely. Just doing anything, usually it can be daunting. I didn't decide out of nowhere that I wanted to do an urban ministry and work in the inner city and do that for my life. But I saw an opportunity and a need to go play basketball with kids in New Orleans in the Ninth Ward. I thought, I can do that. And then something else progressed. So it's a journey. And one other thing I would like to say, too, that I see a lot is everyone listening has an interest in something and a skill set in something. I mean, you might be great at math and want to be an accountant. You might be great at technology and want to code. You might love painting or art. And what I would say is, if you be intentional about it, don't try to go be something you're not. Don't be the accountant who wants to all of a sudden feel like they've got to go play with kids.
Right.
If that's
right.
not the thing. It may be, but I can tell you this. Every nonprofit is desperate for someone to help with accounting, and there's so many ways.
Bingo.
Do what you're good at and find a place where that can help somebody, and then you'll really make a difference, and you'll be in your sweet spot.
Bingo on that. And that's what we always say is that, like, whatever you're good at, these nonprofits, they get into it for passion and not necessarily understanding all the business ramifications of a nonprofit. So there's so many business skills that translate into nonprofits. So Chris, the tenets of Athletes for a Better World: work hard, fair play, come together, grace and dignity, give something back. I mean, those tenets, they apply to all of us now, but particularly, and you have been at the highest levels of business and sports marketing, the International Olympic Committee, the 96 Olympics, athletics and sports marketing your whole life. You've hired a lot of people, but talk about future opportunities for kids, because it's always been there. Like the Falcons have always had community organizations and all that, but athletes now really have the platform to really influence a lot of positive outcomes, but there's so many career opportunities within that as well, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The reason Athletes for a Better World was formed 23 years ago, as I mentioned, was because athletes have a special platform that a lot of people don't. And whether they come from these smaller schools or whether they're Heisman Trophy winners and professional athletes like Danny, they all have the ability to influence and positively affect other people, because for better or for worse, athletes are put on a pedestal in America, and they can either do some really good things or they can do some not so good things. And so what we're trying to do is encourage people to do those things that influence others in a very positive way. And we've talked about all the ways, the various ways that you can help, but my philosophy of life has always been, and in business in particular, as you know, Vince, I could never have foreseen when I was in college or even in law school the business that I would end up in. I mean, it was unthinkable that Atlanta would get the Olympics. It was unthinkable that some guy who lived all his life in Georgia would end up having a company that ran all the marketing for the International Olympic Committee. So that wasn't something I could plan for. So my philosophy has always been, put yourself in a position that you can take advantage of opportunities as they come along. Exactly. Those opportunities might be, they might have to do with a money making career. They may have to do with an opportunity to give back to the community. They may have to do with an opportunity to help another individual in need. You just never know what is going to come down the pike or what you're going to see on the road of life that you travel. So if you prepare yourself intellectually, if you prepare yourself physically, and you prepare yourself from a spiritual and ethical standpoint, whatever you happen along, you'll be able to react to it and positively affect that set of circumstances because you've prepared for it, and you can hit the curveball, you can hit the 92-mile-an-hour slider because you've to use an athletic analogy, because you've prepared for it, and that's kind of the way I've tried to go through life, and that's what I look for when I've hired people in the past. Because when we started Meridian and became the IOC's marketing and sponsorship agency, I told people when we hired him, look, I don't have time to train you. We're a lean shop. Everybody's got to pitch in, and I'll give you the ABCs, but you kind of have to figure it out yourself. And the people who had prepared themselves, like I just described, and again, not just in terms of their education and their specific training background, but in terms of their empathy, their ability to deal with other people, et cetera. Those are the people that succeeded and stayed with us for a long time. And the people who hadn't hadn't developed those skills, be they physical, emotional, or otherwise, didn't do as well.
And Danny, and Chris talks about, these athletes, particularly now, have massive social media platforms, and they're on television, dang near, every day or every week. But and we always tend to focus on the 1% who they may pop off or get in trouble, but there's 99% of the athletes and 99% of our students that are on social media are out there doing the right thing. And it's okay to talk about, because I say goodwill is good business. It's okay to put your authentic self out there and show that you're doing something good, because you don't know if you'll influence somebody, and if they're going to try to, go to work for Danny Wuerffel or Desire Street Ministries or Melt or whoever that is. Those intangible impressions, and you go look at them, and I go look at them as well. We look at everybody's social media footprint. That's an important thing now for our students to hear it from somebody as a leader like you, correct?
Well, yeah, I think, like Chris said at the beginning, when you tell the story of what people are doing or things that you've done, get out there, you do hope that it inspires others and that has an effect. So I think that's a great thing. I also try in my own life, and, there's a little balance on that. You don't want to just sort of create a social media profile of all the good things you've done, or that you don't want to be a Instagram star just because you created that sort of thing. But I definitely think, getting out there, spreading good word of what's going on. I also love, if you go do something, let's say you go work at a volunteer project for an organization, you could post something that is really all about you and what you did, or you could mention that you were there, you loved it, and put their social media handles and encourage people to go check that out as well, because then you're really spreading the word of the good work much more than just yourself as well.
And I think in this environment too, and you touched on it, because obviously all the volunteer organizations, cause, charity, community, philanthropic, they've all had curveballs thrown at them right now in this virtual environment. But I thought you made a great point about accounting. A lot of students can still volunteer virtually for an organization. I mean, Athletes for a Better World may need some social media help. These kids are very sophisticated. Desire Street may need social media help. You may have a socially safe distance, volunteer effort on a neighborhood in Atlanta. I mean, there are still opportunities for everybody now. They don't just have to sit in their dorm room. They don't just have to, sit at home. Those opportunities are out there. And what we counsel our students on is that no matter what, go do something that you really are passionate about. If you're passionate about the Humane Society or elderly and shut-in or homeless, it really doesn't matter as long as it's making a positive impact on society. I think that reflects the values of Athletes for a Better World. I think that reflects the values of Desire Street and the Wuerffel Trophy, which is basically the Heisman version of the community contributions of a college athlete. But that common thread moves through there, Danny. So it doesn't necessarily matter what it is; it's what you're passionate about. Correct?
Yeah, for sure. I'll jump in on that. And I love what you talked about, adjustments with COVID. For a great example, the winner of the Wuerffel Trophy this year is Teton Saltis, an offensive lineman from New Mexico. And, he grew up on an Indian reservation in South Dakota, and a lot of his charitable work was around different reservations. Well, when COVID hit, he couldn't do as much in-person stuff, but he recognized there was a new need. You had a lot of kids that couldn't go to school that didn't have access to books. So he created a book drive where they gathered donations, bought books, and delivered books to kids on the reservation. Another example, they noticed that the depression and suicide rates across the country were going up. So he joined a suicide hotline prevention and actually made phone calls, took phone calls from people that were wrestling with mental health. And so I love the idea of being creative and thinking about what can you do. Sam Ellinger, the quarterback for Texas, who, if you follow sports, I think he's been their quarterback for like 13
Yeah, like 100
years.
years.
Yeah, he put together a deal that ended up raising a couple $100,000 for groups that were very specific involved in COVID relief. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to be flexible. And then your point again about anything that you're passionate about, I think when something you're interested in and something that you're good at meet a need in the world, you've got like this perfect trifecta intersection. So if you look around, see where there's a need, see what you're interested in, and recognize what you're good at. And when those three things hit, you got a great recipe to make a big difference in the
Yeah, and it really doesn't. I mean, that story of the lineman is amazing. I mean, just recognized a bare need and then went and did something about it. And I think as we look at future employers future employees and future employers, is that I think there's going to be, and like I said, going through COVID, I mean, we've all been through our own individual journeys and battles. I think there's going to be a heck of a lot of more empathy and understanding, but obviously we're operating in a virtual world. But, in the spirit of silver linings, I think that organizations such as Desire Street are encouraging this, organizations such as Athletes for a Better World. And before we close out, Danny, how can people get in touch with your organization if they want to do virtual volunteer opportunities when things quote unquote get back to normal? Because and you hit on something big, and think about this, because we all, everybody wants to be in sports and sports marketing and entertainment marketing, but through our journey of podcasts, a series of podcasts, we have turned over so many opportunities that we interviewed Michelle McKenna, the CIO of NFL, recently, and she said, I don't hire anybody with a sports background now. The mental health, psychologists, statisticians, those types of things. I mean, we uncovered that mental health is a major issue among everybody now. I mean, not just the younger generation. We tend to be old school, but it's a real deal, and we've all got to come together. So within a cause organization, where are opportunities for, future careers for students?
Well, as it relates to careers, I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities in the nonprofit world to do service and to get involved. And, like we said, every organization, especially different sizes, but, you need help with legal work, you need help with accounting, you need help with marketing, you need help with fundraising, you need help with programmatic stuff. So, we've got an intern right now that's helping us with social media. Right. And even as you knew, just for me to get on this call, I had to have my daughter help me with the technology. Right. So there's a blessing that the younger generation knows. And so there's lots of opportunities. And, two last points I would just want to make in this space. The first one is, and you kind of alluded to it, you don't have to be a Tim Tebow. You don't have to have 1 million followers. Right. Some of the greatest and most heroic acts of service, is when a mom or dad wakes up at 2 a.m. with a baby to take care of them. It's not a big thing, but it's changing the world, and it's a little thing. Do it. We want to wait till we are secure, or wait till we have more money to be generous, or wait till we have more skills. No, do it now. And then the last thing is, in this world of citizenship, it's interesting how we're talking about athletes and trying to be great citizens. And I love this motto, you can be nice and help others and still kick butt, so like be excellent at everything you do. When it's time to compete, and be humble, win, and help others.
I agree with that. And if somebody wants to reach out and volunteer for Desire Street Ministries or the Wuerffel Trophy, what's the best place for them to find the information?
The one-stop shop for everything. You just go to DannyWuerffel.com, and that has links to everything, DannyWuerffel.com, but specific, DesireStreet.org is the website for that, and Wuerffel Trophy has a site too. So you can find us pretty quickly and see what happens.
Chris, as we close out this tremendous interview, two things to talk about. Talk about how students, if they want to volunteer virtually for Athletes for a Better World, whether it's across the country, the nomination process, recipients, social media, helping volunteer for the event on April 29th, or if somebody wants to be involved with Athletes for a Better World or attend the April 29th event at the College Football Hall of Fame, what's the best way? My friend Brad Catherman, who runs Athletes for a Better World, amazing guy. What's the best way for people to inquire about information or the event?
Well, our website is the best place to start first. That's www.abw.org. So Athletes for a Better World, abw.org. And the best news of all from this podcast is that we also have tickets available. The ceremony on April 29th is open to the public. And we're going to have a couple of special guests. Coach Spurrier is actually going to come and make the presentation of the trophy.
Wow,
Annie, which will be neat. We contacted Tim Tebow. He's going to be playing baseball, but there's a possibility that he could get. They may have an off evening. And he could scoot down. If not, he'll send a video congratulations to Danny. But we have sponsorship packages available at that website. We have single tickets available, and the proceeds of all those go to our scholarship program for our collegiate and high school winners. So it'll be a great opportunity to attend on that evening. And every year these things get better and better and better. These events, and you come away just with a bigger heart than you walked in with. It seems like at least I do. And so I hope we're gonna forward this podcast out to the Gator clubs, not only in Atlanta and Georgia, but around the country. We're also honoring that evening. We have a special award called the Spirit of ABW Award that we're presenting to Rodrigo Blankenship. He was actually one of the nominees for the Collegiate Award, and it was just so tough we couldn't narrow it down to 4. So we picked 4 and then gave this other award to Rodrigo. And so the Georgia people won't be completely left out. We also have a Georgia Tech student who's one of the Collegiate Award winners. So it's going to be a great night, and we hope as many people as possible can find a way to make it. We've worked very closely with the College Football Hall of Fame to make sure we can do it safely. Obviously, it remains to be seen how the next 2 months go, but they have such a big area. We think we can space tables in a way that's very safe and follow all the guidelines and have a great night. And then that website also for students who would like to become involved with the organization, that has all the contact information for reaching out to Brad as well. And it'd be great to hear from a lot of these young people.
Yeah, I noticed that the Gators and the Dogs are getting a lot of love. Not a lot of love for us Auburn Tigers, but we're sort of used to that being in the back of the bar. So,
well, I would have. One of my biggest gripes with Danny is I grew up, and when I was playing, I disliked the Gators tremendously, and in the 90s he made that virtually impossible, and it really upsets me.
I know he did.
I went for 4 years, and I actually had to respect and appreciate them. So,
I would have loved to have seen one-on-one between the great Danny Wuerffel and the great Chris Welton, but probably would have been a draw. But just such a delightful conversation, Chris. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for Athletes for a Better World. As I said, one of the main gentlemen, Billy Espy, rest his soul, just passed away. Very, very devoted to this cause. So much devoted. And Danny, just so inspirational. Not only congratulations on the award, but really thank you for being such a tremendous influence. Servant leader, sharing your philosophy of volunteering and being involved with the community. And I always say, if we can just influence one person or one student or help one person or one student, our job was done, for that day. And so, we really appreciate everything that you do for influencing others and the community of Atlanta, but the national community and our students. I'm sure you're going to hear from a lot of them, and Chris. And we're looking forward to April 29th, gentlemen. So thank you so much for joining Virtual Melt University, and best of luck.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Great
Danny.
job.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Vince. Really.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank your daughter, too, Danny.
Yeah.
I will.
Thanks, Vince. We hope you've enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with a new edition of Melt University 2021.